Hey everyone, today I want to talk about wolves in sheep's clothing, and I want to touch on how you can tell if someone is an OP, an on purposer, or an OA, an on accidenter. An OA is a person that unintentionally causes someone else harm, where you might accidentally bump into someone at the store, or maybe you've been in a car accident, which is wasn't just a car accident. You were in comprehension of where you were driving, what you were doing, and maybe it was slippery. You tried to brake and accidentally hit someone else's car, and obviously the insurance, if you have it, will pay out, and you say you're sorry. And an on purposer is a wolf in sheep's clothing. This is someone who, for the most part, you walk past on the street and you don't give a second glance to, but it's someone that intentionally causes harm. And the second part of it is they don't take responsibility for their actions, nor do they apologize. And I'm going to touch primarily on the Darrell trial, but also my experience with an on purposer, a wolf from years ago. I was raped while serving in the military. Years later, over 20 years later, I finally attempted to contact the man who raped me. He hung up. I left a message and attempted to try to call him back, and he didn't answer, and he filed a notice of harassment against me, and I had to go to court as the defendant in a case against the man who raped me. So while I was in court, my wolf, my perpetrator, claimed he hung up because he was told by my family member that I was crazy, and that was basically it. But he then tried to get the sympathy of the judge and said that he now lives in fear. He has to keep his blinds closed. He worries that I'm going to, harm him, etc. And never said he was sorry, and tried to put a spin on the fact he told also the court, the judge in specific, that his wife was afraid. He no longer has the same quality of life he had before. He lost his position at, I think, a local, a VFW post, etc., etc. So he tried to gain sympathy from the judge and claim that I was the perpetrator and he was a victim, etc. And so, fortunately, the judge, having had experience with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, etc., saw the truth and dismissed the case against me and did not allow the man who raped me to get a notice of harassment against me. And if you're looking also at other people, the on purposers, the wolves, you will notice people like Darrell Brooks, who during the trial was allowed to cross-examine the people that he harmed and put them on trial, and then in his closing argument said that his family's getting death threats, and they're afraid for their lives, and his 8-year-old daughter doesn't understand why daddy's in prison, and he won't be able to hold his infant son, and why people would have children with him. I'm still baffled. But anyways, on a side note, the on purposes or wolves in sheep's clothing will never take responsibility for their actions. I'm watching the trial where now the victim's statements are being read, and he's rolling his eyes and putting his head down and looking at the Bible and shaking his head, and I've seen him smirk. It's just really disgusting and just grinding the way these animals are allowed to reside amongst us. So all I want to say is that know that if you're dealing with a non-purposer, a wolf, that they will never say they're sorry. They will never take responsibility. They will never show remorse, empathy, or compassion. In fact, the only reason they continue to reside on this earth is because either they've been locked away and released, and they haven't reoffended or been caught again, or they're staying under the radar, or they go to church and they have other people who can vouch for them for how great they are, or sometimes they're married and have children. In my case, my perpetrator is married, and when we were in court, his wife was in the courtroom as well. So They lived lives similar to the rest, but they are always going to be wolves in sheep's clothing, and they were always going to be the OPs, the on purposers. So there's nothing we can do. We can't prepare to interact with them when they go off and start behaving the way they do in a heinous manner. But just know, in situations like mine, people who have dealt with military sexual trauma and people who now are facing Darrell Brooks in the courtroom, know that there are very few OPs, very few wolves, compared to the amount of survivors that are out there. We have myself and other women who have served in the military and other victims of rape. Although there are more of us and that have been on the receiving end of the wolves, know that there is strength in numbers. Know that you are not alone. City of Waukesha came together and is still coming together and still helping out one another in this time. I've talked to other victims of assault and who have dealt with OPs, and just know we are not alone. We share a common bond, which is fear, grief, loss, and most importantly, the will to survive and the will to get up and the will to keep going. So to all of those that are going to face Darrell Brooks, I understand. I pray for strength and healing. I pray that you find the words and know that even if he rolls his eyes, that he is going to have to live with himself. And just like the other wolves, they're not going to end up in a happy place when all is said and done. We will not have to reside with them for all eternity, because there is no place. I don't care what people say out there. We can get forgiveness and you go to heaven if you ask Jesus into your heart. There are certain people I know that I'm not going to live amongst for the rest of my life. And my perpetrator and Darrell Brooks are two of them among many others I could name. But anyways, just to let you know, that's the way I feel about it. You can say what you want, but know there are strength in numbers. We are survivors. Survivors always come out on top, and the bad guys never win. So that's all I have to say. I hope everyone's having a great day, and we'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.